I've never actually seen anyone put a video out like this, so I'm going to do this. I think that it's very important that I get across exactly how I'm grading strains. I think that this could be used by a lot of people. I hope it is, and I'm probably assuming it is. So let's just talk about it. The way I grade strains, based on the look, I always will give it a lower ranking if it was machine trimmed. The reason for it is because the machine trim is always going to knock off some of the goods. It's going to knock off some of the parts that are actually the most valuable. So if someone actually is taking the time to trim it by hand, that's a huge bonus. When I just called out Jay Plantspeaker for using those tweezers, using whatever, to be honest, that isn't necessarily a super bad thing. And I'm almost sure that he uses the same tweezers for all the same plants. He uses little tweezers, which is kind of crazy if you really think about it in the bigger picture. Trimming a lot of weed with tweezers is going to take a long time, but some people care about the plant a little bit more than others. If you're trying to be as cleanly as possible, use different scissors or use different tweezers, whatever, just so that you can ensure the fact that you're not contaminating each individual plant. That's a huge thing that could happen. But when it comes to how I grade it, if it's machine trimmed, then it's gonna get a lower ranking. The reason why is because they cut a corner. That is something that if they invested that little bit of time, if they invested that time into it, I would be fine paying that extra price point. But if it's not, then that's something that has to be considered in the final grading process due to the factor of it could have knocked off some trichomes in the process of it being whacked around in this weird bin or trimmed by some crazy AI machine. That being said, when it's based on the looks, I do think that a lot of other things play into it. If it's browning, that's huge. That plays into it a lot. I probably should grade stuff way lower if it has any bud rot. If it has any issues like that, definitely a lot lower. Mold, definitely a lot lower. But when it comes to smell, of course, smell could be very subjective. Some people are going to very much love candy. Other people are very much going to love desserts. Other people are going to love this, that, whatever. Who really cares? Some people, as Blackleaf mentioned, really like that GMO funky sock weird smell. I'll pull it up.
Why you people don't, why you like this strain,
Yeah.
why. And it's like, yeah, every strain isn't for everybody. And it doesn't matter how great a strain is, it's still not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think this is part of how cannabis is personalized medicine. I always like to say that because to me, it really is. And when we say the nose knows, essentially what we're saying is when you smell one cultivar, one variety versus another, sometimes you literally just get a feeling of like, oh, this feels really good to my body. Like my body's telling me that it likes this smell. And then you try another one and it's like, ooh, it's almost like your body's pushing away from it. And this might, we might just say, oh, that's a feeling. Like that's a feeling we get, which it is. But we also have 400 or more smell receptors in our nose. And those receptors are linked to our immune system and our past memories of smell that we remember when we're younger and how those memories were positive or negative. And all of these lived experiences are so intimately tied to our smell. So when we smell the cannabis, like so much is happening in our brain. And being able to take the time and listen to your body and say, okay, my body's telling me that it likes the aroma of this. And that's happening at a molecular level. When you smell anything, those are molecules hitting receptors in your nose, whether that's something like cannabis that smells great or something like poop, which smells bad, that's still molecules hitting receptors in your nose. And when we think about those same molecules, when we roll it up and smoke it, they're going to be entering our body and interacting with similar receptors. So if you get that positive reaction from smell, it likely means that you're going to have a positive reaction in your body from the receptors inside of you.
So it's like almost like your body's saying like yes or no.
Literally, yes. Yeah, more, less.
And
yes,
some
no.
people love to abuse themselves. So just know that, some people love smoking GMO and Ken Dog and OG, which is an offensive smell,
Yeah.
right? But people love that.
Smelled OG today and I said, that's OG. Yeah. For sure.
But for some people's bodies, that's probably like, I love this.
Exactly.
It's a warm, blanket.
I think he's very much right about this. This right here, I don't really understand all the reasons why people like this, they like that, or whatever. This was a good example of why some people might like that old, dirty smell. So, makes sense to me. That being said, smell is very subjective. Can't really criticize anyone's opinion on smell. Moving on to the taste, though, I do think people really have to be very honest with themselves. Compare some of these different things to foods, to vaporizers, anything that you're commonly using, and what would your judging be of the taste of those things? Are you putting that same type of judging to the flower, or are you being more judgmental of the flower? How are you judging it? Because me, to be honest, I've always came at it from this angle. I want to experience it in different forms. I want to experience it out of a bong. I would love to experience it out of a joint. Not really a huge fan of vaporizing stuff, but if I had the opportunity, vaporizing it would be cool as well, because then you get a whole new experience with it and you get to really taste it for the experience that some other consumers really would have been experiencing it in. So it just gives you this open-mindedness of seeing things from the bigger picture that is very much needed if you are going to be someone who is criticizing or throwing any sorts of judgment upon something at all. You at least have to put yourself in that shoes to know, is this a mistake that they could have changed, or is this a mistake that naturally just happens? So this is definitely something I think is huge. Taste, of course, naturally could happen. Some people could be getting some whack seeds, they could be getting some whack clones, whatever, and they could be getting the worst pheno of the bunch, which is resulting in them having something that lacks taste, lacks any ability to ever taste. So it's not really always their fault, but there's a lot of things nowadays that are kind of blinding the taste in a way. There's a lot of people using salts, there's a lot of people using a lot of weird things. So I think having the knowledge upon what a salt even tastes like, or the ability to know what the strain is supposed to taste like, is really big. I think that just having the experience in the field is going to give a lot of people that opportunity of knowing better so they can do better, which is very important when it comes to throwing judgment on something that someone really spent a lot of time crafting and making become something that's even alive. It's not easy, and a lot of people definitely are throwing very insecure judgment upon a lot of things. Maybe me at one time was one of those people, but I feel as though I've gained enough knowledge at this time to even be able to speak in a way that's going to be presentable to the people. So I definitely think that when it comes to the taste, so much more plays into it. Probably could do a whole video on that one day, but what I want to speak on is the effects. The effects definitely can be subjective in a way, because some people don't have the same tolerance as others. So I do think giving it a certain type of trial and putting it through a certain type of almost testing yourself is huge. That's why I think smoking out of a bong, smoking out of a joint, and doing it at certain points of the day and trialing stuff out is huge. And that's why I think if you are really going to be reviewing stuff, you cannot be smoking 30 strains in one day. You can't be smoking 2 strains in one day sometimes. Sometimes you have to just focus on one individual strain, smoke it at this one point, smoke it at this other point, and grade it throughout those points so that you can actually see, how was this able to gradually give me these effects? Was it able to stay around for this meantime? Because some of these things are very huge when it comes to the medical scene. If someone has chronic pain or any of those very more serious ailments that are going to be affecting if they can do things, I think that's very important for certain people. If the effects are actually going to be 30 minutes or 3 hours. Those are important things for medical patients. So having that ability to speak on stuff like that is huge in the process of what I'm trying to do. And I think the effects, as I said, can be very subjective. Some people will be like, I love Jack Herr. Some people will say I love Jack Herr. I'm not actually really, I'm not a fan. I like Jack Herr a lot, but it's not like one of those things I'm chasing after. I'm more of like a huge OG Kush fan. So it definitely can be hard. It can be very hard. But when it comes down to OGs, you certainly do have to know what phenos are. You have to know what the difference is between certain cuts, because there's going to be so much that plays into that. Whether or not it's going to be the final scoring is very hard to say, because I think that shouldn't really play into the final scoring what cut it is, to be honest, because I've seen some people run the worst of the worst and get such beautiful accomplishments out of doing stuff that they were doubted upon. So let's just say, in the bigger picture, if you are grading cannabis, take into account that someone spent months making this stuff. And of course, everyone wants stuff for free when it comes to the review scene. Everyone wants to be able to gain a credibility that's going to inherit them, people wanting to give them samples and all of that fun stuff. It's dope. It's cool. It's really nice when someone gives you a free sample that they spent months of creating. So we have to respect it. We have to do our homework behind the scenes to ensure that what we are actually producing is something that the people are going to feel satisfied about hearing. I hope that's something that I did today. I hope there's still room for people to leave comments of their opinions of what they recommend someone like me do forward, because I'm nowhere near perfect. I have a lot of room to work, but that will also give a lot of people the opportunity of a lesson as well. So much love and respect to anyone that took their time and allowed me to speak.